Well, thank you for having me today. You know, if the price does go above $100 a barrel, the higher it goes, of course, if that continued, that especially hits countries who are poor, Asia, Africa, Latin America, South Asia, and also that do not produce their own oil, especially. In Europe, the eastern countries are the ones that are having more problems with inflation, so naturally it would hit those countries a bit harder. However, the question is, if it does go above $100 a barrel, how long will it go above? The Saudis have quite a lot of oil held in reserve that they can put back on the market. The question is, I think their strategy is not to spike the price of oil. They don't want to destroy the economies. They don't want to destroy their customer base, but they want to get a certain return on their money. And I think they wouldn't let it go over 100 for too long, is my guess. Well, um, I think it's a little bit too early for that. I wouldn't be surprised if in the next few weeks, if the price starts going above 100 and has some velocity, looks like it's going to continue, that OPEC might act to dampen that. They really don't want to look. There's a problem. On the one hand, demand is picking up in the world, but at the same time, China, who's always been the engine of demand for a number of years, for almost 20 years, has serious problems. Europe also the recovery is very soft, and Germany in particular, the engine of Europe, is not really running very well. So the Saudis, they have good economists. OPEC has a sophisticated economists. They understand they have to be careful. They could undermine their market if they let the price go too high. So I think that's the situation we're in. And I think shale in the United States is acting in a much more sophisticated manner with discipline than in the past. It's interesting. When you look at shale, everyone's saying, "Oh, they're not." Shale is taking profits, and they're reducing the amount of rigs. The rigs have been reduced quite dramatically. But what I'll point out, production continues to rise, and it's predicted to continue to rise at a record level to the end of the year. So there's a technological advances taking place in shale in the United States. At the same time, they're trying to be disciplined and paying off their investors. And shale knows what the strategy of OPEC is. They realize that the Saudis are sitting on a couple million barrels of oil they could quickly put back on the market. Ah, yes. Ah, um, it does seem that the bulk of the West, as you put it, of the G7 and EU and the US, are reluctant to squeeze that price cap. I think farther out, there will be a time when they squeeze that price cap and do various things to really start removing Russian oil from the market. But that won't happen until you see new production coming from other places. And we could talk about that. The Biden administration is working on that in many places in the world. Okay, so the thing is, on the other hand, the idea is for now, is not with the price cap, is not to keep Russian oil off the market. They don't want volatility. They don't want shortages and high prices. Russian oil is on the market for the most part, but they are selling it below the going price. As your report said, something like $85, $86 a barrel. That's $10 a barrel less than the going price, and that is something. The Treasury Department of the United States printed graphs, evidence, recently, a couple weeks ago, showing that over the last couple months, the income of Russia, the revenue of Russia, was down by half for selling the same amount of, compared to when they were selling this amount of oil before, a year or more ago. So they have been denied a significant amount of revenue, and it's making them much harder to wage their war. They're having difficulty getting technology to keep the fields being productive, and they have a diesel shortage. And the diesel shortage, I should just point out, what's going on here, obviously, is they're using an awful lot of diesel to keep their war machine going in Ukraine. They move all their war materials by train, and much of their exports have to now go all the way to Asia by train. They have a serious diesel problem. And so, all in all, I think the West is making life quite difficult for the Russians. But yes, they will need to do more over time.